So for Teacher Appreciation Week this year, I thought I'd do something very generic and a large thank you to all the teachers that I've had throughout high school, because as a senior I've been thinking a lot about my high school experience, and I've been so extremely thankful for all the knowledge that I've gained from all these insanely intelligent people and all of these insanely intelligent teachers, and I'm so thankful for everything that they've passed on to me. And I'm especially thankful to all these strong female role models that I've had over my high school experience. Miss Mollis, Mrs. Marler, Senora, Mrs. Dangle, Miss Supanzik, just all these strong female individuals and strong humans in general that have influenced me in personal ways, in my education, just for everything. And I'm extremely thankful to take that influence with me to college next year. And I am just so incredibly grateful, and I can't say that enough, how grateful I am to have had these wonderful humans as teachers.
The thought of Teacher Appreciation Week has appeared into my mind recently. Since then, the bad times I remember, they're gone. The good times I remember, they stayed. And without the help of the teachers, I probably wouldn't have made it through the school year. Thank you, Mr. Mashuda, for dealing with us bratty children all day. And yes, most of us know we're bratty. Your reactions to us being brats are just hilarious. Thank you, Mr. Chopek, for introducing me to dinosaurs. I don't remember any science teacher ever talking about dinosaurs before, and it was very useful to know. When I first came into your classroom, I was expecting you to be very mean, but now people just said that. Yeah, I just think you're strict. When kids don't do your homework, you're not happy about it. Most of the kids didn't do their homework, so that explains it. Thank you, Frau Bay, for keeping me in German class. On the first day, I was very nervous and overwhelmed. I didn't understand a single word of German. Now here I am, and I'm surprised at how much I've learned. Thank you, Mr. Grove, for keeping a pile of books in your classroom. I started reading them one by one, and since then I've been introduced to F. Scott Fitzgerald, all the way to Stephen King. Thank you, Mrs. Nodak, for introducing me to The Twilight Zone. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, and it's changed my views on life. Thank you, Ms. Pusateri, for introducing me to 20th century protests. Never would have heard about the Night of Terror before you. The progress that female leaders have forged is inspiring. I wouldn't be the same person without any of you, especially after Teacher Appreciation Week. It's really taught me a lot.
Thank you, Mrs. Bicker. Thank you for helping me to become more confident in myself on stage. Before joining chorus, I was always so scared to be on a stage in front of so many people. But chorus has really helped me to become more confident with being on a stage. I remember last year when we had to do the concert for our Sandusky trip, you helped me learn our song last minute because I wasn't in the class that learned it. You're always someone that helps to cheer me up because of how happy you always are, and you always start every day so energetically, even if it is a Monday. So thank you, Mrs. Bicker.
Thank you, Mr. Klosser, for teaching the programming class, which opened up the door to what I want to do the rest of my life. Without it, probably wouldn't have gotten into programming. I also want to thank Mr. Grove for being there for me last year when my brother passed away. I was having a really rough time, and I knew your class was always the place I could just go and be myself and talk about what's wrong.
Thank you, Ms. Garuccio. Thank you for being so kind and positive towards everyone. Every afternoon before I go into your class, you're always greeting people at the door, and it just puts a smile on my face to know how much you care about class to start and that you're enjoying it. I always remember the fun chem labs we have done and how Jack and Tanner almost burned down the entire chem lab with their Bunsen burner, and you started joking about it the minute after, and everyone was having a good time, and it was probably the highlight of my year. Thank you, Ms. Garuccio.
Thank you, Mr. Druger, for motivating me as a student and always being positive and energetic in the classroom. The thing that I like the most about you is that, you're always understanding, and you always make it a lot easier to learn more concepts because you're always hands-on with your teachings, and that makes it a lot easier when you're a student, because when a teacher's involved, you really feel like you have a common ground where you meet at, and I feel like it just makes learning a lot more fun. Some people feel like learning may be boring at times, and You know, I'm not the type of person that likes to just sit through a class period for 40 minutes doing nothing or listening to a lecture, but you know, you make things fun and interesting, and I do really appreciate that, so thank you, Mr. Druger.
Thank you, Mrs. Sig, for being an understanding and encouraging teacher. When I was in your class, I had problems with things like multiplying and dividing fractions and how decimals even worked. But you always pulled me aside after class to make sure that I understood everything. Your lessons were always extremely fun, and you always encouraged me to do my best, even though I had no courage in myself. Thank you, Mrs. Sig.
Thank you, Ms. Fagioli. Having you at a young age and seeing you through the halls in high school inspires me. I remember when you were writing a long essay to win us a smart board for our second grade class. My class didn't get to come down and use it because it wasn't there in time, but in third grade every morning we would come down and draw on it. I remember when you would give us Smarties during the PSS days to make us smart. Thank you for being the best second grade teacher ever. Thank you, Ms. Riggins, for being an inspiration. We started off on bad terms with my grades, but having you for a second year made me see things differently. Even though I took frequent naps during your class, biology isn't my favorite or best subject, but you tried your hardest to make the best out of it. I always gave you a hard time about not doing my work, but you never once did give up on me. You made me realize Quizlet isn't the correct way to learn things in life, and that I can't take the easy way out of things. Thank you again for being the best biology teacher ever.
Thank you, Frau Bay. You were one of the best teachers that I've ever had. The concepts that you teach in your class really stick with me because you come up with interesting and fun little ways to remember them. And your class can be very enjoyable, even though you can be strict from time to time. But I know you really care about me and all of your students because you always say that you just want to give them the best education possible. Also, I'm glad that you are someone that I trust and I can talk to if I'm having trouble inside or outside of school. Thank you, Mr. Mashuda. You are a very good teacher and you explain the concepts in your class very well. I also really enjoyed having you as a coach in basketball this year. Your style of coaching really made the games and practices fun. Thank you, Ms. Klein. It's been a while since I've had you, but I am really grateful for how you helped me out when I was a new kid here. I was really overwhelmed when I first came to this new environment, but by showing me around and really teaching me the way things are here, you helped a lot with my confidence and fitting in.
Thank you, Mrs. DeFries, for being one of the best homeroom teachers I've ever had. Not to mention, you were also one of my favorite math teachers. You were the best math teacher I think I've ever had. Math, you made it fun for me. Like, I never really liked math, but with you, math was different. I had lots of fun, and it was a great time. In homerooms, we had countless fun moments. We always had Uno playing, and we always talked and just joked around in homeroom. It was one of the best homerooms I've ever had. And anytime I needed somebody to talk to, you were there for me. And I always will look back on that and be thankful for the support you gave me. I would also like to thank Mrs. Kemp for helping me ever since 4th grade. She helped me all the time, and anytime I needed help in any subject, she was there for me.
I would like to thank Ms. Smith for teaching 8th grade English class. It really helped us whenever she would help us write papers, which is obviously now getting very important now that we're close to heading off to college. And she would always make us stand up in front of the class and speak to everyone, so it really helped with public speaking as well. Just a really great class overall, taught us a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vigilati, for always making class fun, even when I took it as a freshman. I really learned a lot in your class, and I think it'll really help me in life and college and everything else. And thank you for always being a great homeroom teacher and always knowing how to make it fun and bringing food in and helping everybody out when we needed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Brien. You've been my teacher since 1st grade, and I've really appreciated everything that you've done for me over the years. You've always been really supportive and helpful, and I'm very thankful for that. Thank you, Mrs. O'Brien.
Thank you, Mrs. Marler, for everything you've done for me and for always being inspiring and for always making me smile. I really enjoyed your class, and I think it taught me a lot. Thank you, Mrs. Marler.
Thank you, Miss Groupie. You have always been there for me and always worked through my problems with me. You're always such a great person to talk to, and you always make me smile.
Thank you, Mr. Selva, for being a great teacher because you're able to actually talk to us as students, and it helps us connect you with the teachers. So thanks for that. And also, thank you, Ms. Myler, for just being generally a nice teacher and also teaching me sign language.
Thank you, Mr. Clauser, for being a great teacher. I'll never forget how to add and subtract fractions. Also, thank you, Mr. Wood, for being a great cross-country and track and field coach.
Thank you, Frave. So far, we've had class together for 4 years, and those 4 years have just been amazing. I remember, German 1 being, so young and just, not really knowing what to do to reach a high standard of work. And, throughout German class, you've, definitely shown me just the standard that I can, perform at, and you always pushed me to, my limits, and ever since German 1, I mean, I've been just always excited about German, and just always excited about about learning, and I think that a big part of my high school success is you. I mean, since I was young, right? Like, you just showed me that it always works out when you work hard, and so I've definitely carried that just throughout high school. And also, I would just like to say thank you for always pushing us hard, and pushing us to just be the best that we can, especially this year with taking our German test. I mean, it's been kind of hard, it's been taxing here and there, but I mean, I think that coming through it, I mean, I'm a lot of a better student, and all that, so I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for pushing us hard, and really like showing us what we can do. So vielen Dank, Frave.
Thank you, Frave, for an amazing year where you helped me learn another language. Thank you for going and helping me go and become a better person, and also striving me to be my best even in the face of difficulty. I hope to see you next year.
I would like to thank Mrs. Valesco for always believing in me and my classmates and giving me an appreciation for math.
Thank you, Mrs. English, for being my first teacher. Well, I can't remember most of the things that I did with you. I remember leaving your class was one of the hardest things. Was probably one of the most emotional moments. Thank you, Mr. Doherty, for helping my love of history grow. I think one of my favorite parts of you was hearing the pumpkin story, when you almost killed a person with a pumpkin. I mean, how can you go wrong with that? And thank you, Ms. Boulos, this year for making math very much fun and educational. I think this year has been, favorite part this year was you saying a lot of memes. I mean, that's amazing. The teacher who does memes, that is like amazing.
Miss Marler, thank you for being my favorite teacher in the school and for making learning fun. You always came up with creative ways for us to remember what we were doing, whether it be screaming boat down the hallway or naming our favorite dessert after answering a question. Anytime I came to class and I felt depressed, you always asked me if I was okay, and you helped me get through all of my problems. You add so much creativity to the school by participating in the Elizabethan Fair, having a really funny accent, and just decorating the school very nicely. I really appreciate everything you've done, not only for me, but for the school, and I'm sad to see you retire, but I will never forget you. I love you.
Thank you, Mr. Mashuda, for being a great teacher. Thank you for taking time out of your homeroom and out of your day to help me with geometry. Without you, I wouldn't know what an angle bisector is. Also, thank you for giving us the story about Will and his green beans. I will never forget his binder clip. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate Mr. Grove for always being there whenever I needed him for a tough time. I had Mr. Grove as a 9th grade English teacher. He wouldn't just tell us, or well, yell at us for not being prepared. No, he would help us to get prepared without yelling and like having us not to even remember we didn't come unprepared. He would just say, hey, once you're done, you just put our pencil back and that's it. We're good. I also appreciate all the 8th grade teachers. That includes Mrs. DeFries, Mrs. Eagle, Mrs. Smith, Mr. Doherty, and Mr. Tropin. Whenever I wasn't doing that well, I was doing actually terrible in 8th grade. They all had a meeting set for me. I was just expecting to get yelled at and being told, hey, you need to do better and do your work. No, they all sat individually, told me a great motivational speech that helped me do better further on. 9th grade, I did so much better. I don't think I even got a failing grade, honestly. Now this year, I'm doing good, don't get me wrong. I'm just struggling in class. That's kind of my fault, but still, I just remember that motivational day for me, and it's always just helped me, so thank you.
I appreciate Mr. Mashuda because he actually helps us when we need help. He talks to us like friends and checks on us to make sure we're doing okay at home and everything. Like, if you miss a homework assignment, he'll come up to your desk and make sure everything's okay and why you didn't get done. And he'll jokingly walk around the room and tell us to scribble if we're not taking notes or just mess and shake our desks to get our attention.
Thank you, Miss Marler, for helping me. Thank you so much for everything you've done for me, helping me learn Shakespeare, sign language, and being patient with me while I was learning it. Thank you so much, and I'm going to miss you so much when you're retired. Thank you, Miss Marler.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. Thank you for fueling my education further than in terms of art. Thank you for introducing me to my new favorite author, David Sedaris, and giving me books to help perpetuate my interest in literature. Thank you for helping me with paintings and giving me advice but not putting me down in the process. And not only art and literature, but thank you for helping me and inspiring creativity with music and all the things I just listed. Thank you, Mr. Roth.
Thank you, Fraude. You have been nothing short of an inspiration for me and for a lot of other people. You and your teaching style are utterly remarkable. I can't think of anybody who lives up to the standard of what I think everyone thinks of as a teacher. You are a little strict sometimes, that goes without saying, but it's not unwarranted. It's not mean, and it's not argumentative. It's respectful. You want more from us. You expect more from us. And some people just can't handle that. But for the students that do, they prosper and they do very, very well in your class. They come out of German and they really feel like they understand what they just learned and talked about instead of going into the same couple classrooms every year, not really developing anything. A lot of classes here, I wouldn't say you don't learn anything, but you don't have much retention on your knowledge. But in your class, you give us memories and knowledge that we'll keep with us for the rest of our lives. So, thank you.